day. Nothing is true, and everything is permitted. That's usually what you get with a first installment. You can pretty much do whatever you want, because the money men aren't breathing down your neck to make things more accessible. And one of the great first installments is Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed was developed and published by Ubisoft and released to the gaming public on November 13th, 2007 for the PC, PS3, and most importantly, the Xbox 360, the version we are looking at today. I personally didn't play the game or knew it existed until 2009, so I went into it completely blind. I was quite impressed by what I found when I finally played it. Assassin's Creed is a third-person open-world game wherein you play as the Assassin Altair as he navigates the corrupt and labyrinthine world of the 12th century Holy Land. The game features a remarkably well-designed blend of parkour and third-person hack-and-slash gameplay. At the time of its release, the parkour was a major selling point for the game. The parkour system in this game is very fluid and responsive, with a high degree of accuracy and forgiveness. You don't need pinpoint jumps to make it to another building, and conversely, you will seldom miss jumps to other buildings. If they had not nailed all these elements, this game would have gone down in history as a craptacular spin-off of Prince of Persia. You hold down a button on the controller and just walk Altair up to a wall, and he will start climbing. 75% of the fun in this game is jumping from rooftop to rooftop. A major element of the gameplay was even designed to take full advantage of the parkour. In order to reveal the map, you have to climb lookout points, and these will vary from generic towers to giant grandiose structures. Once you have ascended to the top, you hit another button to synchronize, we'll get to that in a moment, and then you leap straight down into a pile of straw. Awesome. Yeah, at the time, other jealous games mocked the leap of faith, but I gotta say, leaping from the highest point on a map was a whole lot of fun, and the game does try and justify why you do it. When I first bought the game, I spent hours just parkouring around the city and enjoying the fluidity of the system, leaping from building to building and avoiding the rather well-written plots like the bloody plague. So, combat. It's not great, but it's not terrible. You get a sword, throwing knives, your only ranged weapon, by the way, short blade, and finally your neck stabber. The hidden blade, like the parkour, was an element of the game that became really bloody iconic, and with good reason. It's super bloody cool. It's a spring-loaded knife hidden in a wrist gauntlet. At the time, I had never seen anything like it, and its versatility and utility made it a standout weapon. What also makes it a standout weapon is how it's a one-hit kill, and will be the weapon that you can use to win every single fight. The other weapons are alright, but they're more or less just situational, and the sword is only really needed if you cannot master the hidden blade's timing. Combat in this game is utterly broken by the hidden blade, but despite that, the combat in Assassin's Creed 1 is a little harder. The enemies will be able to stop your attack if you do not time your strike correctly, or you don't sneak up on them. Thankfully, you got plenty of health points and they regenerate. Ugh. But you kinda need it because, man, there are a lot of enemies to fight. You have a strong attack and a weak attack and a counter system. This is where the hidden blade becomes the game's BFG. If you can master the timing of the counter system, you can counter any enemy, and the hidden blade will become the only weapon you will ever need. Fitting since it's the Assassin's Blade. But as mentioned, it's a one-hit kill, and that means combat becomes almost trivial. The timing window is easy enough to master, so easy that even I was able to figure it out after a while. Later games kind of fix this, but they also make the battles even easier. In the end, the combat, while not perfect, is still fun enough that it does not distract from the rest of the game. In addition to the neck stabbing, you will have a few minor objectives to complete. The one that really was an inspired bit of game design was the Save Citizen objective. Throughout the game's 3 cities, you can save a certain number of citizens. If you save them, you will have vigilantes show up and they will stop the guards when you have to run away from them. This optional objective is pretty great because it shows that the devs understood what the players really wanted to do in this game. You save citizens being hassled by the guards, so you get to be a good guy and stab people in the neck. The other minor objectives are beating people up for information, eavesdropping for information, and pickpocketing for, you guessed it, information. This was maligned at the time, but let's turn that on its head. Ubisoft understands that people want to do 2 things: climb buildings, and stab people in the neck. Would it have really been a good idea to put a bunch of barriers between the player and their neck stabbing proclivities? These objectives are fun enough and do a good job of ensuring that you don't get bored of the neck stabbing, and they are annoying enough in places that they will make the player want to stab even more necks to work out their frustration. Each assassination culminates in, you guessed it, stabbing a high-value target in the neck. These fights can range from trivial, if you get the timing right, to tough, if you do not. After each HVT is serviced, the parkour gameplay comes in. In Assassin's Creed, you are normally supposed to be a sneaky blade in the crowd. Too bad I kind of just want to stab people in the middle of the day with hundreds of witnesses, but to each their own. If the guards witness your neck stabbing, they will chase you Benny Hill style, and the guard's alertness level is denoted by an icon in the upper left. If it blinks, they are suspicious, and you gotta blend in. You can do this by walking slower or just chilling on a bench. If they go full aggro, the meter will start going nuts and blinking red and emitting an alert sound. To lose your wanted level, you have to hide. You do this by making the guards lose line of sight, and then either hiding somewhere out of sight or just chilling on a bench. After each assassination mission, you gotta run and hide and then make it back to the local hideout. And this is easier said than done. You got every bloody guard out looking for blood, and this evasion is at least half as fun as the assassination itself. And finally, you got the obligatory collect-a-thon. There are flags throughout each city and you can collect them. Yay. Oh yeah, and then there's the assassin informants. You can get information from them, but you gotta collect a series of flags in a certain period of time. Yay. This game introduces eagle vision. You use this to see enemies and certain targets, but it was never used that much in this game, but would become important in later installments. The gameplay for Assassin's Creed, while kind of basic when you compare it to its sequels, prioritizes, assassination, and thus there is less piddly crap to get in the way of stabbing people in the neck. The game features the very well-designed protagonist Altair. He is a member of the Order of the Assassins. The plot features you having a reverse hero's journey. At the beginning of the game, Altair is already a master assassin with an ego to match. After he botches a mission, he is stripped of his rank and all his tools, and it's up to you to stab enough necks to get him back to glory. The plot features Altair taking down some shady individuals on the orders of Assassin Grandmaster Al-Muwakhem. But as the body count grows, Altair grows more and more suspicious of the motivations of his master. Can Altair stab enough necks and fall into enough hay to stem the tide? Find out in Assassin's Creed. Funny enough, in current year, I have talked to a number of people who have heard of this series, but never taken the plunge and tried it. And sadly, the Assassin's Creed series, while still ongoing, has been tainted by the time waster antics of the later installments. As Creed 1 can waste your time in places, but mostly it's a straightforward experience and gives you the player what you want. If you never got into the series, I recommend at least trying this game, as it does provide a very entertaining experience and deserves the popularity it would get. Graphically, holy crap, this game still looks good. Just look at how well designed Altair is. His design is, well, very cool and comes from an era when art designers put a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears into making a protagonist look unique. That might not be a very good attribute for an assassin, but who cares? The game is pretty bloody huge and the cities are very well detailed. And remember, 2007. The people have aged in terms of their face, and they're very much on the bad side of Uncanny Valley, but look at how many people are in the cities. This was almost unheard of back in the day, and all the cities feel like they're large enough to be cities, and are filled with what feel like the right amount of people too. This was a graphical powerhouse in 2007, and has aged very gracefully since then. Sound design is really bloody good, and all the bleeps and bloops are iconic in and of themselves, and the sound mix is still a feast for the ears, and it sounds like you're in a city as you can hear voices echoing through the streets. The sword slashes sound meaty, and some of the death sounds from the guards are, yeesh. No wonder this game got an M rating. And the sounds Altair's boots make on tile, oh, ASMR indeed. VA work is really exceptional, except for Altair himself, as his voice actor turns in a very flat performance. Assassin's Creed came at a time when gaming was undergoing a sea change. Games were becoming less gamey and more cinematic. And for good or ill, the VA work in this game helped evolve gaming from bleeps and bloops into works that rival and surpass many major motion pictures. Music is excellent as well, with many iconic tracks, the most iconic being the chase theme. When you stab an HVT, you have to leg it back to base. A special track will play, and this concept is carried over to other Assassin's Creed games. The chase theme here is not quite as good as some of the later ones, but is still pretty bloody catchy. So, spoiler alert, Ubisoft created an explanation in search of a question. The real story of the game is Altair regaining his lost honor, dealing with the assassinations, and his own suspicions about what is truly going on. Mashed onto this in a rather silly way is the future plot with Desmond Miles. Oh yeah, I typed all those H's. So my theory is this: Ubisoft wanted to move away from "ma games" to "ma cinematique," but how to explain all the gameplay elements such as health and world maps? You know, I got it. Okay, we'll have the story be framed, and like it'll be framed by the real story being set in the then future of 2012. And so there'll be this guy, his name is Desmond, right? And he's the descendant of Altair, and an evil corporation kidnaps him and puts him in a machine, and the machine can like unlock his, ancestral memories. So the evil guys can get a magical artifact that Altair found, and the machine that displays the gameplay. It's about as bad as it sounds. You got this novelty writing about free will and freedom versus tyranny, and then we gotta stop so Desmond can stare goggle-eyed at my science machine and then go to sleep. That's really what happens in this game. You literally just, the game stops, the dude gets yelled at, he literally goes to sleep, and 2 seconds later, you get back into the game. There is no need for this here at all, and adds nothing to the gameplay or story, and feels like it was just tacked on, because we needed to somehow explain my health and my map. If you cut this part of the game out, you would miss nothing, and the game would be far better for it, as it completely ruins the pacing. So, the true story begins with Altair being sent by Al-Mulachem to secure a Templar artifact. He botches it by being an arrogant dick and gets one assassin killed and another maimed. But the maimed assassin gets the artifact regardless. Altair is busted down to initiate, and you spend the game trying to get back your lost honor and equipment. As you play the game, you try to unravel the game's many mysteries as you stab people in the neck. As you do that, you learn all your targets are part of a larger whole, and Altair begins questioning his role as an assassini. He grows throughout the game and turns from an arrogant dick to a dutiful and humble good guy. In each city, you will talk with Assassin Bureau leaders, and some will have some pretty hilarious dialogue, but one is very important. Altair got his brother killed, and thus he now hates Altair with a passion. At first, but at the end of the game, after seeing how much Altair has changed, he forgives him and calls Altair friend. At the end of the game, you learn that Al-Mulachem was the true villain all along. Al-Mulachem was truly a member of the Templars, a group of statists that believe humanity should be controlled for its own good, of course. In 2007, all this stuff kind of seemed like the old classic conspiracy theory stuff you saw back on the X-Files. In 2023, the WF is a hell of a drug and all that. The Templar bosses you take down really sound a lot like Redditors. Whatever the case, you face down Al-Mulachem and you learn that the Templar artifact was a piece of Eden, an artifact from those who came before. Those who hold it can control the minds of humanity, and Al-Mulachem uses it to generate holograms of the game's bosses. Hidden blade to the neck, and then he generates holograms of himself. Blade, neck, repeat. And finally, you face him down. He may have magic, stab him in the neck. You stab Alley Boy in the neck, and he says that Altair will not be able to resist the power of the Apple of Eden. And well, he's right, and the game ends with Altair looking at a holographic map showing other apples, and we are left with an uncertain ending. You cut back to the future, and Desmond is kept alive after the current year Templars learn the location of the Apples of Eden, and the game ends with Desmond being able to use eagle vision, and he sees some cryptic crap. The end. Assassin's Creed would become majorly popular despite this future shenanigans and would be instrumental in bringing about the cinematic age of gaming. It would receive numerous sequels and is still ongoing to this very day. Altair would be booted out of the franchise in favor of a man from Milan named Ezio Auditore de Firenze. But if you love you some Altair, there are a couple of mobile games where you play as them. One for the DS, Assassin's Creed Altair's Chronicles, it's a side-scroller, and one for the PSP called Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. This features a simplified version of this game's gameplay and serves as this game's direct sequel. Finally, Assassin's Creed would be novelized in 2011, and the novel would cover this game, the PSP game, and beyond. The writing style is excellent, and we get to know Altair even better. Not to spoil anything, but Altair is still kicking ass up to his 80s.
Assassin's Creed, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's super popular, but at the very least, it has earned its super popularity. It has great gameplay, it has great music, it's got a great story, and Altair is an excellent protagonist. We get to see him grow from an arrogant asshole into a legitimate human being. If you haven't booted up this game in a long bloody time, I highly recommend it. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Prince of Persia and good Saboteur, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.